Now, Nelson Mandela Bay residents have raised concerns that they are on the verge of another water crisis. They say the threat of another day zero keeps them awake at night. This follows confirmation from the municipality that the city's dams will run dry in July. So how will residents be impacted? We are joined by Antony Martel from the Nelson Mandela Bay Water Committee. Good afternoon, rather good morning, Antony. Welcome to Newslink. Let's talk very briefly about how far are we from day zero right now as you and I speak?
Well, the municipality says that it's about July that the dams are going to run out. But any day, like the rates of the dam levels are changing. So the last, I believe, reported level was somewhere around 12%. I think the municipality would do a much better job of answering this question. I mean, I think this should be very visible if they're concerned about the amount of water that people are consuming. So we don't have very much time. But what we're starting to see from the municipality is a little alarming in terms of a report that was made about the revenue collection rates from residents that's gone down to about 56%. So I've heard, in discussions that the Water Crisis Committee has conducted with residents, members of the Water Crisis Committee that are in Bethelsdorp are talking that they have water bills that go up to 177,000 rand. This is a pensioner in Extension 27. She has a leak. She has a surface leak and an underground leak. She's been back and forth to the municipality. No one is able to help her. So if we're concerned about, if the municipality is concerned about collecting revenues, then they first have to get their house in order and fix these leaks. In Extension 29, there's another woman in Bethelsdorp who has addressed the municipality and said, there's a leak outside my house. There's a big puddle on the side of the street right outside of her house. She says that a water truck came to fix the leak. But instead of fixing it, they saw it and they said, "Oh, yep, this is a leak," and then they never came back to fix it. So, in terms of the tender contracts that are being given out to these companies that are supposedly fixing the leaks, we'd like to know what are the conditions of these contracts. Do they just give them and then they go out there and go about their business? I mean, and also, what is the backlog on these leaks? Because if revenue collection is becoming an issue. Also the fact that these residents have illegitimate debts is a more important issue that needs to be dealt with first.
Let's talk about that, Antony. I mean, just recently, the quality of the water itself was something very questionable. As it were, there was a warning issued that you should absolutely boil your water first before consuming. How are things looking right now? Do you have any knowledge?
Yes. We were just in Boyson's Park a couple days ago. And, it's a similar story that residents describe mothers with their children, often young children, who spend up into the early hours of the morning looking after their child, taking them to the emergency room because they're sick from the water. There's one woman in Boyson's Park who had 2 young infants die. She was a pregnant woman who was drinking the water while she was pregnant, and then once the child was born, died, and due to some illness related to the water. And for working class residents, where many of whom are unemployed, it's not possible to be able to boil the water. In a lot of cases, when water does get shut off, like in the extension at Boyson's Park, residents have to walk a kilometer or more to go get water because the water tankers don't come. They have promises that the water tankers will come, and they don't. So, residents are basically forced to build fires outside of their houses to even cook any food. So, there's no option. I mean, for many people in Nelson Mandela Bay to be able to actually safely drink water. And, it can't be trusted because, I mean, this is a problem also across South Africa. The Blue Drop report put it as 60% of municipalities are failing on microbiological standards and 70% are failing on chemical standards. So it's a major issue.
And when this day zero comes, Antony, what's likely to happen to the person on the ground consuming the water or expecting water to come out of their taps? I'll tell you an interesting experience I had just in Cape Town when there was day zero. There were buckets of water that were being handed to us as guests, and that was the reality on the ground. For someone who had obviously traveled from Gqeberha to Cape Town. I imagine for residents of Nelson Mandela Bay, are there any plans to help them in that way?
Well, I haven't heard anything from the municipality about this. I think what they have said is that basically when the taps run dry, when the dams run out, the taps are going to run dry, and the water is going to be circulated to these collection points. Now, these are the communal taps that were built last year. The only one that is in proximity to a working class committee is outside of Walmer Township, and there's another one near Cleary Park, which is a location that is relative to the areas I mentioned, like Bethelsdorp and Boyce's Park. But the only other reliable source for many working class people is going to be coming from water tankers. And like I mentioned, it's not clear, what plan there is in place for these water tankers. Are they allocated to, a reasonable area for residents to be able to collect this water? Is the water in those tankers going to be clean? Because there's been complaints about the water, in fact, that comes from these tankers is actually not clean either. So more than likely, it'll be a case of residents basically who are having to travel to different areas within townships when the water tankers come, if they come on a particular day. So it's going to be a major struggle. And I mean, that's not the only issue either. In areas where the water does shut off, it doesn't run the taps. That also means the sewage lines don't run. So people can't take baths, they can't flush toilets. So it's not a very pleasant situation to be living in your home. If you're unemployed, parents don't want to send their kids to school because their kids can't bathe. And also, I mean, if a mother has to take care of the activities in the household, then their children are going to have to be the ones that go and collect the water. So again, they're not a high likelihood that they're going to be able to go to school. I mean, and also that a lot of these schools, when the water does shut off, the water doesn't go there either.
Antony Martel, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed with day zero out in the Nelson Mandela Bay water. Of course, Antony speaks for the committee in that province.